What's up, everybody? Welcome to the YanBar Podcast. Bryan Barcelo, host of this episode. Today's guest, Nicole M. McNAMARA, author of the new hot novel, Hot Voodoo. Thank you. And Nicole, thank you for accepting our invite.
Thank you for having me.
You're more than welcome. Hey, check this out. Tell us a little bit about your book.
So my book is Hot Voodoo. It is a mystery romance. It's new adult, so my target audience is 20 to really anybody after 20. It's going to be the first in a trilogy, so there are going to be 2 more installments. And it is about a girl named Casey Savoy who is looking for her missing sister, who has been kidnapped 3 years prior and during Hurricane Katrina. So she is in New Orleans and she's looking for her sister a few years after Hurricane Katrina.
And you covered one of my other questions. So you do have some more novels coming after this one. Now, besides this series, are you working on anything else, or you got something else in the works?
I don't right now. I'm always thinking about other things. And of course, as a writer, I think everybody does that. I have a lot of ideas that I'll start working on, but nothing official, just the series at the moment.
Now, is this your first novel?
This is my first novel to see the light of day. Yeah.
Understood. So you have some other works that you hadn't published as of yet.
Yes.
Any chance of those coming out?
Probably not. I do have a full-length fantasy novel that I wrote when I was a lot younger, but it is not fit for anybody to read at any time, and it would need extensive reworking, and it's not in the same genre that I'm working in now, so I don't know that I'd go back to it.
Now, once again, what type of genre is this that you're in now?
This is mystery romance. Some people consider it just mystery thriller. There are elements of thriller in this novel, but there are also romantic elements that are pretty prevalent to the storyline. So I would say mystery romance.
Understood. Like the title, it seems to suggest some kind of occult or supernatural. You know, the voodoo part. Is that not the case at all? Where do you get the voodoo part?
No, it is not. There's no supernatural element to the book. The book is called Hot Voodoo, and it is a little bit of a play on the culture of New Orleans. And that does show up in the book a little bit, but it's actually a song title. And it's sung by Marlene Dietrich from a movie from the 1930s. And the song title and the lyrics play throughout the book. And the lyrics themselves talking about circumstances where the character is making poor decisions play into the lyrics of the song. So that is why it's called Hot Voodoo.
Understood. So I guess it's safe to assume that the song was the inspiration?
The song wasn't the inspiration.
Oh, no, not safe to assume.
I actually started writing Hot Voodoo in college 10 years ago, and it took me about 5 years to write on and off. It shouldn't have. It didn't warrant 5 years, but it did take me 5 years on and off to write. And then it took me another 5 years to gain the courage to put it out there for the world. But I started in college for a crime fiction writing class, which I knew nothing about. And I had family living in New Orleans, and they moved there because of Hurricane Katrina to kind of rebuild. So a lot of that was, I really love New Orleans. I never lived there, but I did get to visit often. And I really wanted to set my novel there. So I did. And then I just sort of decided that I would create a storyline off of people that I was mad at in my life, make bad things happen to them. So that was kind of my inspiration. And it's not entirely where it went. Everybody's fictional in the story. But that was kind of my inspiration. I had to come up with something for a class, and then I really ended up enjoying writing it, and I just continued with it.
Oh, wow. Looking forward to checking it out. I haven't gotten to it yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to your book. And tell me something. Does your book have that disclaimer? Any similarities to picture people?
I think it does. Yep, it does. This book is
excellent. Because I know you said you're mad at people. That's good. And then sound and stuff. I understand that you've been doing I guess they call it the tour. And you had a book signing recently. Want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I had a really full weekend the other weekend. I had a book signing at my local library here, and the local library purchased my book. So if you're in Florida and you're local, you can come check out my book at the Winter Park Library. And then I also had a book signing at a local bookstore, Spellbound Bookstore in Sanford, and they also are selling my book, so you can purchase my book through them. So I've had a couple other book signings, all pretty much local to Central Florida. I may be branching out to different areas in Florida soon, and I'm trying to take every opportunity I can to spread the word.
That's what's up. Seems like you're doing fine so far. Now, the people that have been reading, have you been getting warm receptions from your novel, the places you've been going?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm really bad at marketing myself, but I think the people who have read it, I've gotten really good reviews. I've had a lot of really positive feedback, and I'm hoping that continues.
I'm sure it will. Just from judging from the excerpt, I mean, it draws you right in. I'm like really curious what's going to happen in this novel. Now, you said you don't have any other novels in the works as of right now. If you were to choose another genre, what would it be?
I would if I were to choose another genre entirely, it would probably be fantasy. That is kind of my first love when it comes to writing. It's the first time I ever dabbled in writing, as I wrote fantasy, because it's so easy to write about something that you have full license to create. You don't, for Hot Voodoo, I had to do a lot of research. There's a real timeline involved with Hurricane Katrina. And there's real elements of New Orleans as a city and culturally what's happening. So I had to do a lot of research, and even just mapping it out and some of the street names and where everything is located. With fantasy, you don't have to do any of that. You just make it all up. And exactly. There's a lot of creative license involved in that.
Did you have any help with writing this or putting the book together?
Oh, no. No, I don't know if I could write with somebody else. I did have a lot of readers who read, as I used to post it on Facebook a long time ago. I would post excerpts of it, and I did have a lot of friends in college that would give me feedback. I did work in writers groups really early on, where I would bring parts of my writing to the writers group, and that helped me tremendously. I don't think the story would be what it is if I didn't have outside perspectives telling me what was working and what wasn't. But as far as the writing's concerned, no, this is all me.
All right. And yeah, I didn't suggest that you had a ghostwriter or anything, but I was thinking proofreading and helping out with research and so forth like that.
No, I did all my own research.
Oh, wow.
I also did all my own proofreading and editing, which is not common. I really hope that it doesn't show that I did my own editing reading. I know that it is really not, it's not something that is typically done. You probably really shouldn't do it, but I have worked as a professional editor as well. And I do feel, I felt pretty confident editing it myself. I did not hire an editor. I did edit it myself.
I'm sure you save a lot doing that way too.
Yes, but that being said, I don't suggest other authors do it. I don't know that I'll do it again. I will probably hire an editor for book 2, just because it's always safe to have another set of eyes looking at your work. I just had spent so long not doing anything with my book that I didn't I didn't want to have that be another excuse to not put the book out there. It was ready to go. I didn't want to add another step when it wasn't necessary.
Now tell me something. When you say sat the book down for a moment, when you pick it up, did you have any trouble or difficulty getting back into it?
Yeah. And even now, as I'm writing book 2, I think that my character, her adventure spans, as so far has spanned the time frame of under a month. And I have spent the time span of 10 years changing who I am as a person and my life, and going from a college student and then having kids, getting divorced, getting remarried, and all sorts of fun things in between. I am a different person than who I was when I started writing it, and my character is not a different person. She's the same person. Hopefully she will have some growth by the end of her story, but I do struggle to find her again as I'm writing and as I pick it back up. I don't think it's impossible. I think I am, but it is very different from I think I really identified with my main character, Casey, when I started writing it, and now I don't identify with her as much.
Understood. Now, what would you say the most challenging aspect to writing that you've encountered so far?
I think the most challenging aspect to writing is the idea of not being a good enough writer. I think self-doubt is the most challenging aspect to writing and marketing. So as far as the writing itself, I love writing. Writing comes fairly naturally and easy to me. It's cathartic. It's something that I could do just for fun. But when I start thinking about myself as an author for others, that is the scary part to me. And it's also scary for me to put myself out there and try and promote my book. That is my challenge. I know that's not how it is for everybody, but that is definitely my challenge.
From what I understand, and speaking for myself, yeah, that's one of the biggest things and stuff. How did you overcome the hurdle?
I don't know that I have overcome the hurdle. I think that every day I have to tell myself that I'm going to put myself out there, and some days that works and some days that doesn't. And when I make commitments to do certain things, I just do them scared. And that's what it comes down to. To get my book out there, I just had to one day tell myself, you're going to do it today. And one day I did. It had been ready for a really long time, and all it took was a couple of days of putting it out there like I needed to, and it was all ready to go. It was just me holding myself back. So now as I'm working, it's a day-to-day challenge. I just have to tell myself, you can do this, or maybe you can't, but you're going to try anyway.
Exactly.
So
I understand. Now you get help or support from friends and family?
Oh, absolutely. My husband, Damon, is a huge support. He really pushed me to finally get myself out there. Friends that had read earlier on, they also supported me in getting my book out there. They were very supportive when I finally did, and reading it and buying it and letting people know that it was out there. So yes, that has been a great help.
Oh, that's what's up. Oh, and shout out to Damon. And check this out. Customarily, towards the end of the podcast, I'm going to give you a moment to leave people with maybe a positive message or something you just want to share with them. But before we get into that, these book signings that you went to, did you have to set these up yourself, or did people contact you? Because I'm sure some people out here probably who are writing books probably want to go do some book signings too. How do you go about doing that?
So at first I did set up a couple of my own book signings. It depends on the venue. Places, so I had a book signing at a local coffee shop. You pay a fee to rent out the space, and I did my own advertising and had the book signing there. for festivals and book signings with large groups of authors, sometimes you also have to pay a fee for those. I did one like that in St. Augustine. But the Winter Park Library and the bookstore, they contacted me. So what I actually did, just some of this is all just, putting yourself out there as much as you possibly can, being that person who's just handing out cards all the time to strangers, which I hate doing, but I will do it.
Right.
I left cards in local businesses. Anywhere I would go, I would leave cards. And I went to a couple local bookstores that, and this particular bookstore was brand new. And I walked in and I said, "Hey, I'm a local author. Here's my book." And the owner really enjoyed my book, and she contacted me to do an interview and to do a book signing. Winter Park Library was a free event as well, but they were hosting it, so I had somebody tell me about it, and I applied for it. So some of these they ended up being great. I sold every copy of my book that I had with me, and I made a lot of great connections. So some things just, you got to put yourself out there, and some things will be, I was contacted for both of those, and having to go out and set it up myself. But a lot of the times you do have to set it up yourself.
It says on Nicole, the Nicole prior to the book, when I was a little hesitant about releasing, the Nicole now, the book signings, podcast interviews, so forth, you're out there now. How do you feel? Do you kind of look back at the other Nicole and say, you were afraid for nothing? I mean, how do you feel now?
Sometimes, yes. After a really great experience, getting my book out there, talking about my book, having people tell me they loved it, I will relish in that high and feel like, oh, I knew I should have known that I could have done it all along. And then after a while, I'll forget and have to talk myself back into it again. But yeah, I really wish that I had been able to get over my own fear and my own self-doubt earlier. And I think that goes for everybody. You can't let that stand in your way. It will be your biggest, hurdle is your own self.
Exactly. Now, I have a request, and it's just a request. And I just thought of it while you talk. I should have been listening more intently. But I'm wondering, would you read your excerpt? Yes, please. Yes. I think that'd be something cool to do.
Okay.
Right.
So this is the excerpt on the back of my book, Hot Voodoo. 3 years ago, Casey Savoy's little sister was kidnapped from her room in broad daylight. There was never a suspect or even a trail to follow. It was like she disappeared into thin air. The incident becomes the last in a string of odd tragedies, and it leaves Casey scrambling to pick up the broken pieces left behind in its wake. After all this time, though, Casey doesn't think she can stand living alone with her erratic mother for even another second. On impulse, she heads to her hometown, determined not to be a tourist. But just barely post-Katrina New Orleans is nothing like Casey remembers it. The devastation from the storm has seeped into the heart of the city and unearthed more than one mystery, including what really happened to Sophie Savoy.
Very nice. And thank you. And just out, we're getting down to it last few minutes. Like I said before, it's customary to have a guest, leave some parting words or words of wisdom, or just anything you may want to say that we haven't covered. There's the time.
Okay. I think that for any aspiring writer, don't be afraid. I have to tell myself that every single day, and it's true. Or be afraid and just do it anyway. That's my biggest advice to you as a writer, is just put yourself out there, and the worst that can happen is nothing. You created something, you should be proud of that, and people will either love it or they'll hate it, or you'll get a mix of both, and that's okay. So don't be afraid.
Yeah, that's great advice. You get an experience. You'll definitely get experience by giving it a shot. And like you said, if you don't try it, then nothing's going to happen anyway. But if you do, that's what I'm sure you're thinking about. I think about the same thing. Something good could happen if I do. So yeah, that's really good. Let's say goodbye to everybody. One moment, please. Hey everybody, it's another episode of the YanBar Podcast. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to remind you guys to check out our previous YanBar Podcast guests. And always remember that the YanBar Podcast is a place where you make it happen. Once again, my name is Bryan Barcelo, here with Nicole M. McNAMARA, author of the book Hot Voodoo. Yes, and you can pick that up where?
Amazon for paperback, hardback, and ebook.
That's what's up. Everybody, take care. Peace out, everybody. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you so much.